Hey, what's going on, Dodgers Nation? D-Mac here. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. We've got the latest Shohei Ohtani rumors coming up. But first, for all things Dodger baseball all season long, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you really want to support the channel, smash that like button. And as always, I want your takes down below in the comments section. Today's Dodgers Nation question of the day. 1, do you think Ohtani is going to the Dodgers? And 2, how much would you pay him? Do you think he is worth $600 million? Let me know down below. And for all latest Dodgers news, head over to DodgersNation.com. So yes, we have dropped quite a few videos about Shohei Ohtani, and if you want to joke that this is Ohtani Nation, go for it, because it is my job to keep you guys informed, because he is the biggest free agent in baseball history, and there is a decent shot he ends up with the Dodgers. And recently, ESPN's MLB insider Kiley McDaniel, he did a piece where he polled GMs around the league, GMs, executives. He spoke to them to try to get an idea about where Ohtani's at, where could he sign, what kind of deal could he sign, what are the facts and factors behind that deal, and we're going to dive into it. Also, I'm going to play a clip from a conversation I had with ESPN MLB insider Buster Olney a few weeks ago, where he gave me his take on Shohei Ohtani. But first, we're going to try to answer the $600+ million question: how much money is Shohei Ohtani going to get in free agency? What kind of money is he going to command? Because I'll tell you right away, it is going to be unprecedented. This will be the most expensive player in big league history. This will be the richest contract that an athlete has ever signed in the history of professional sports. But let's dive into it. So McDaniel polled 26 executives, insiders, and agents to try to find out what kind of contract Ohtani would sign, and the deals, they ranged. You had anywhere from 4 years, $240 million, to over $600 million. You had a $605 million deal that was suggested, and the 4-year, $240 million deal is very interesting, because that would be $60 million per year for 4 years, and that would give Shohei Ohtani another opportunity to test the free agent waters and try to maximize his dollars. So that is definitely something he could consider doing, or he signs the massive deal. You could see him sign an 11-year, $600 million deal. Some respondents said they would include escalators, vesting options, and bonuses as a way to allow teams afraid of such large guarantees to pay only if Ohtani's performance continues. So if Ohtani continues to play like an MVP, if he continues to pitch like a Cy Young winner, to perform like an MVP winner, then yeah, you want to pay him that money. And the question now I have is, how good has Ohtani been this year? Well, if you look at Shohei on the bump, he has a 3.23 ERA. That's good for 31st in Major League Baseball. The FIP is a little high at 4.23. The expected ERA, though, is at 2.70. The expected FIP is at 3.47. Still getting tons of strikeouts. Has a 12.06 strikeouts per 9. The home runs are a little up. So definitely from a pitching standpoint, his last 3 starts, he hasn't been great. But still, from a pure stuff perspective, when you look at the splitter, when you look at the velocity, he's still nastier than a gas station bathroom. He's still absolutely dirty on the mound, and he can help a team in the postseason. He has the kind of stuff that plays up in October. So a team that wants to sign Ohtani to help them win ball games, to help them win in October, he absolutely still has that on the mound. He just had some rough starts. And if you look at him at the plate with the stick, currently he's slashing 303, 377, 555 with a 153 weighted runs created plus. So his bat is 53% better than league average. If you look at his numbers across the board, his power numbers are up. Last year, he slugged 519. This year, he's up to 555. You look at his isolated power last year, it sat at 246. This year, it's at 252. He has 9 bombs and 29 RBIs, 6 stolen bases. So he's still producing at the plate, and he's still pitching like an ace on the mound. So this is essentially what it says in the piece, as you're getting 2 $35 million players. So, hey, I'm not fantastic at math, but I know 35 plus 35 equals 70. So if you get Ohtani for 60 a year, you're basically getting a $10 million discount. Look, that's like having a yacht and a Rolls Royce for the price of one. That's like getting Aaron Donald and Aaron Rodgers in their prime in the same player. So another benefit for that too is he only takes up one roster spot. You don't have to use two roster spots, but you still have an elite hitter and an elite pitcher. That is one of the unique dimensions that Shohei Ohtani brings to your club. That is very valuable because teams like the Dodgers, teams like the Astros, teams that are perennial contenders, they have great depth in their rosters. You have pitchers at the back end of your bullpen. You have starters you can use at the end of your rotation. You have hitters you can put on your bench that can help you win games. So if you're a contender like the Dodgers that brings in Ohtani, you're going to be able to maximize that roster that much more. Now, the downside of that is the fact that if he does get injured, well, you lose two players. You lose a pitcher and you lose a hitter, and that's why some of these contracts, they were presented by some of these executives and insiders that said that teams could include escalators, vesting options, and bonuses as a way to allow teams afraid of such a large guarantee to pay only if Ohtani's performance continues. So Shohei Ohtani is 28 years old. He's a guy that stays in shape. He gets his rest. He does the work in between starts, but still, this is unprecedented. We've never seen a player do what he's done at this level for years at a time. So it is uncharted waters for the sport, and I think that would only apply to if Shohei Ohtani wanted to go to a team like the Mariners or wanted to go to a team like the Giants or one of these teams that aren't necessarily considered the favorites, but he wants to work something out so he can play for that franchise. Would a franchise like the Mariners or the Giants, would they truly have the financial muscle to go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets, who might be willing to give him a $600 million deal? So that's kind of how I would look at that, is if Shohei Ohtani was just not all about the money. Now, when they say it's not always about the money, it's always about the money. It absolutely is a factor. But I think if Ohtani wants to play in LA or play on the West Coast, and he's picking from one of these West Coast teams, and that is the belief right now, is that he does prefer to be on the West Coast. We know a lot of Japanese players feel the same way because of its proximity to Japan. It is a closer flight, and I know that Stephen Cohen can just afford to buy Ohtani a spaceship and probably a teleporting machine at that price, and he would do whatever it takes to get him in Flushing, Queens. But I still think that comfort is a factor. I still think fit is a factor, and if you look at the favorites right now to sign Ohtani, it isn't the Dodgers. It actually is the New York Mets, who are at plus 300. The New York Yankees are at plus 350, and then at number 3 is the Los Angeles Dodgers at plus 450, and then it might come as a little bit of a surprise, but the Texas Rangers, they're coming in at 4th at plus 750, and we know how much money they're spending down in Texas. The big deals they did with Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, Jacob deGrom, and guys like that. Yeah, I think it is an option if it is just about the money, but I think the biggest factor for Ohtani right now is, one, who's going to pay him, and two, who offers him the best chance to win consistently. And that is why I feel really confident that he will end up with the Dodgers, because the Dodgers check off so many boxes for Ohtani. One, they're perennial World Series contenders. Two, they have the money to pay him. I think you're not going to go into an insane bidding war with the Mets and go to $700 million or $1 billion or anything crazy like that, but we know the Dodgers, when it comes to revenue, when it comes to printing money, they generate money and make revenue better than any team in Major League Baseball. If they want a player, they have the capital, they have the resources to sign him. And Ohtani is a guy that he offers you benefits outside of the playing field, outside of the diamond, when it comes to marketing benefits, when it comes to sponsorship deals. Every single game that Ohtani will pitch at Dodger Stadium is going to be an event. There will be 50,000 strong. You will sell jerseys on jerseys on jerseys. I don't care if you have to have Ohtani's brand as the Dodgers sleeve logo patch whenever they decide who they're going to go with. Look, you can work things out to try to get Ohtani in Dodger blue, and I think that this franchise, they realize the marketing benefits. They realize the history with Japan, dating back to Hideo Nomo and all the Japanese players that have come through this organization, and how popular the Dodgers are as a franchise in Japan as it stands. stands. There's also a long history between the Dodgers and Japan. They scouted him when he was in high school, so there is that natural connection. So it just makes too much sense. Look, I mean, look at the signings that the Mets have made with Scherzer, with DeGrom. Have those worked out? Look at the Yankees. They've been struggling this season. The Giants, they don't have the depth and the pieces to win now. And I think that's something to consider too. If Ohtani was 24 or 25 years old and he had time to allow his next team to develop, then I say, hey, maybe you can sign with the team and you could wait for that World Series. You can't do that if you're Ohtani because, one, not even you know how long your body is going to hold up, and then two, you're 28. You're at the peak of your powers. You are in your absolute prime, and this Dodgers team, they already have the pieces in place. You have Mookie Betts locked up. You have Freddie Freeman locked up. You still have Will Smith. You still have a lot of pitching that's locked up. I think there are going to be some questions about Julio Urias. Will Clayton Kershaw return? But you still have some young studs in Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin. Gavin Stone's already made his debut. Bobby Miller is certainly going to make his debut. So there is talent along this roster that could help him win next year, and that is something that he absolutely has to do from a legacy standpoint. If Shohei Ohtani goes on to win a World Series, it will be one of the most remembered World Series in baseball history. It will be an indelible image for this sport. That's how iconic of a player he already is. And look, there's a reason why in McDaniel's piece, the Dodgers are brought up like 15 times. It says here, 2 insiders said the Dodgers, one said either the Dodgers or Mets, another said either the Dodgers or Yankees, the 5th said either the Dodgers, Padres, or Mariners, and the final one chose the Giants. There's also a quote from an anonymous executive that said, I think he uses the Padres and Mets to run up the price, but he wants to and will go with the Dodgers. So let me say that one more time. I think he uses the Padres and Mets to run up the price, but he wants to and will go with the Dodgers. So there you have it. You have a lot of people around Major League Baseball that are predicting that he ends up in Dodger blue, and I'll tell you who I think is the Dodgers' biggest competition to sign Ohtani in just a second, but let's break down these contracts. So there were 26 that were polled, and 6 of them said less than $500 million. You had some very interesting ones in here. You had 4 years, $240 million, 8 years, $400 million. You see one here, 13 years, $475 million. That is not going to get it done. That is a low ball offer for Ohtani, but you could also see one of these opt-outs like we saw with Manny Machado, where he was able to opt out of that 10-year, $300 million deal to sign a new deal and maximize his earnings. He signed that 11-year, $300 million deal this spring. So if you do have an opt-out for Ohtani, that one allows him to hit the market again if he keeps putting up MVP numbers, and then two, it gives him some protection if league-wide salaries continue to increase. Look, 11, 12, 13 years, that is a long time, so it does make sense to a certain extent, but I just don't think that's going to happen because I do think that one of these marquee franchises, one of these big dogs like the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets, they are going to pony up and they are going to give him the kind of money that he's after. So let's take a look at some of these other contracts, and sort of in the middle range right here, you had 14 executives that predicted a contract between $500 million and $549 million. So you had as low as 9 years, $500 million, to 12 years, $528 million. So in that range, I think that does make some sense. I mean, we'll see when these negotiations really start cooking, if we're really starting with a number that starts with 6, or will it be in that $500 million range? Because you would still pass Patrick Mahomes in guaranteed money. You would pass Mike Trout for the largest contract ever signed in Major League Baseball. So you would still accomplish that. And then here are the mega deals. So 6 agents, insiders, and executives, they said that he would sign for $550 million or more. So some of these deals, you have 10 years, $550 million, all the way up to 11 years, $605 million. So could you imagine that? 11 years, $605 million. That is unbelievable. So that is something that could certainly be on the table, especially when you look at the teams that are in the market. Look, Stephen Cohen joining this party, he definitely raised the bar for these free agent contracts. If it was just the Dodgers and Yankees battling out like we've seen for so many years, maybe I think it does sit there in the $500 million range. But with Stephen Cohen and the kind of money that he's willing to throw around, I think all bets are off. And another thing you always want to pay attention to is the Angels. How are they doing? Where are they at in the standings? And they are starting to slip just a little bit after being just one game behind out of first place a few weeks ago. Now they're 22-20, hovering right above 500, 3.5 games games back of the Texas Rangers. So will he re-sign with the Angels? I think that's highly unlikely. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a battle between the Mets and the Dodgers. I wouldn't rule out the San Diego Padres. I think the Giants are a sneaky team. I think the Mariners are a sneaky team. You always have to see the Yankees as a threat if they truly want to go after him. But I would rank it right now. I would say Dodgers. I would say Mets. Then I'd probably say the Padres. I think those are the three teams that are going to be in the mix for Ohtani. And the domino effect of that is what happens with Julio Urias. And does Julio Urias go to a team like the Padres or even the Rangers if Ohtani goes to the Dodgers? Because look, could you really see the Dodgers committing $800+ million to players next offseason? I mean, that would be unthinkable. But hey, crazier things have happened in Major League Baseball. And like I've been saying for years, hey, look, I'm ready for $50 Dodger dogs and $100 beards and $120 micheladas and $200 parking. If it means getting Ohtani, a once-in-a-sport type player, to this franchise, hey, let's do it. Bring Showtime to the real LA. But a few weeks ago, I spoke to the great Buster Olney of ESPN, and we discussed the possibility of Ohtani going to the Dodgers and where he sees him possibly going and his sense of the Ohtani situation right now. And here's what he told me. Do you expect the Dodgers to go all in on him this offseason?
I do. And I expect the Mets to go in on him all offseason. We talked, and I'm sure you've talked a lot about the Dodgers and how they structured some of their offers this past offseason, one-year deals with guys like J.D. Martinez, picking up a Jason Hayward in part to create some payroll flexibility to go after Ohtani. Well, at the same time, the Mets have been doing the same thing with the richest owner in baseball. They have the two highest paid pitchers in the history of baseball in terms of average annual salary, in Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. But both those guys are on short-term deals. And I think that they will be in a position to throw a huge offer at Ohtani. And in watching sort of the storm clouds gather off in the distance for this to go down, I keep thinking back to the bidding war between the two teams over Trevor Bauer, right? Where it looked like the Mets were going to sign Bauer, and they felt like they had advantage. And all of a sudden, the Dodgers swooped in. And there were people involved in that bidding who absolutely thought it came down to a little bit of a, who's the biggest billionaire between Mark Walters and Steve Cohen. And I think the same thing will happen with Ohtani. The question is, we saw during this most recent offseason, we referenced Judge and Trey Turner turned down bigger offers to go to desired places. Judge wanted to stay with the Yankees. Turner wanted to go to the Phillies. The question is, will Ohtani, if the Mets throw out a ridiculous number, $600 million plus, which I think is possible, would the Dodgers chase that number? And does it matter for Ohtani? None of us thought that he was going to wind up with the Angels the last time we were around. And I can't say that I have a feel for where he's going to go, but you know what? It's going to be fascinating to watch during the course of the wintertime.
$600 million for a player that could be the MVP and the Cy Young Award winner. And like I've been saying, if he wants to go to New York, we'll just move the Dodgers back to Brooklyn if that's the case. Okay, we have to find Ohtani in Dodger blue, But let me know down below in the comment section. Do you think the Dodgers will sign Shohei Ohtani? Do you think he'll end up in Dodger blue? And what kind of contract would you be comfortable giving him? Do you want to see the Dodgers go over $600 million? I can't believe I'm saying that for Ohtani. Let me know down below. My name is Doug McCain. My friends call me D-Mac. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA for all things Dodger baseball all season long. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you really want to support the channel, smash that like button. And until next time, think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out.